This is the Game Changers Experience. Deep dive conversations with leading business disruptors, Olympic athletes, celebrities, entrepreneurs, and influencers from around the world. This show will teach you insights about the winning principles in mindset, productivity, marketing, branding, entrepreneurship, business strategy, and more. Hosted by Productivity Authority, business strategist, former elite athlete, author, and public speaker, Adam Strong.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Game Changers Experience with myself, Adam Strong. And today we have another amazing guest here on the show. Now, today we have the amazing Kelley Thornton. Now, Kelley is the founder and CEO of Tiege Hanley. And Tiege Hanley is our e-commerce company specifically focused on the mission of helping men look and feel amazing. This year, they hit a massive milestone, okay? And they shipped their 1.5 millionth box in July 2022, which is a real big milestone. So congratulations.
Thank you.
They've shipped over 350,000 shipments around the world. He's an author. He's an entrepreneur. He set up another company before this as well, which we'll talk about as well. But some of the things that we're going to be talking a little bit about today is we're going to be talking on the topic of how to deliver wow. And the reason I bring this up is because, well, we'll talk about this actually during the interview, but some of the things that we're going to be talking about is, first of all, I'm fascinated to learn about the obsession of how Kelley got into the whole kind of men's skincare thing, because it's, it's like a self-perception or reality thing, and maybe it's ego, I don't know, but I'd love to know what the backstory is on that. Secondly, we're going to talk a little bit about one of mine and Kelley's favorite books, by the way. You guys don't know what that is. So we're going to be talking about that and how that kind of crosses over into what he does day to day. We're going to talk about retail, because retail is really interesting over the last sort of couple of years, and how Kelley's perspective on how he believes his company is going to be navigating uncharted territory, because I think that's a really interesting conversation that we're going to be having. And we're going to be talking about differentiation in terms of like USP. Like for me, from my perspective, like USP is not just about product and people. It's like kind of the whole package. So I want to get like Kelley's input on that. And then we're also talking about how to deliver wow, because for me, that really fundamentally is what the conversation is all about. So Kelley, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you. Looking forward to today's conversation. It was interesting because, we share some very interesting common interest, should we say, more than anything else. I wouldn't say about skincare, but even though we are two very handsome bald men, of course, we seem to attract those handsome bald men for the show. I don't know. It's kind of maybe a thing going on. I don't know.
We stick together.
We do stick together. Anyway, the bald men tribe. Anyway, even though today's conversation is not necessarily about men's skincare, well, kind of is, but I'm interested in learning about Kelley's story more than anything else. But let's jump into this, because you've got this. You came up with this obsession of skincare back in, was it 2016? And that's when Tiege came about and whatever it is. Tell us about like the backstory. Was it like kind of like walking through the women's aisles and you were inspired? I mean, what was that all about?
Yeah, I mean, it was part of that. Actually, story I don't tell a lot, but we actually launched version 1 in 15, a year, and it's almost exactly a year before it failed. And so I started thinking about this in 2014. And I was doing research for consumer product good companies, global consumer product good companies, and I was going into the stores. I was very embarrassed as a consumer, and I'm sure some of your male listeners can appreciate this, but going into retail, first off, guys aren't really, cut out of a retail mold. We really don't like to shop too much. So I was going into retail and I was looking at how men are shopping in different categories and trying to understand, skincare category for men. And I was very embarrassed. I would go in and I'd be asked a question from someone behind the counter. What do you use what are you using to protect your skin from the harmful rays of the sun? And I don't even know how to answer that question. I don't know what am I supposed to be using? And, I would, and I'd go to certain stores and they would be like, well, we've got some really special stuff. I just got this in today. Just got it in today. It's going to be gone by the end of the week. I'm going to call all my special customers and they'd pull something out and set it on the counter. And I would be so embarrassed. I'd be like, I have no idea what that is. She'd be like, this is unbelievable stuff. Would you like it? It does this, this, and this. And I'd be like, yeah, sure. I'll just add that to my routine, which I didn't have any. So I came to the realization I needed to do something if I wanted to stay looking and feeling my best. So that's how it kind of started, roughly speaking.
Was the box, when she got the box out of the cupboard or where it was it like kind of like they're kind of gathering dust as it was, she was kind of like
just the opposite. You'd think that like a lot of people would come and running over to see like what exactly was being pulled out of the magic drawer underneath the counter. It's like being at Liberty in London, and everybody would gather around. What exactly is that?
That's so funny.
Yeah. So and actually, and to finish the story, it was actually like a tinted moisturizer, which I didn't even know that existed for men. But it was a phenomenal product, a tinted moisturizer. I bought it. I paid an insane amount of money for it. Completely embarrassed. Left the store feeling like that I had just climbed Mount Everest. I'd made my first big purchase in the skincare business. But I figured there's a way that we could talk about it and talk about skincare to men where it didn't feel intimidating, make it easy and uncomplicated. And I embarked on building a company that did that.
It's interesting because you talk about intimidation. And I mean, from my perspective, I guess my perception of kind of the whole kind of skincare thing is that I don't know if men feel intimidated, but I think it's also kind of a men being men type of thing. Like, I'm manly. What do I need skincare for type of, do you know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot to that. We actually see some of our customers that are kind of interesting, and I can give them a product and they'll be like, yeah, I'll try it. And I'll say, how'd that work out? And be like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. And so there's like this certain mentality of certain men, no matter what, they're not going to use skincare. And that's fine. Like, that's fine. I'm not here to try to change everybody's mind about something. This isn't politics, right? This is like, if you want to do this, you will look better. Your skin will feel better, but yeah, you be you, that's what we say.
I guess it's all about a matter of priorities. Do you know what I'm saying? And it's like, is it important enough for me? Maybe not. I don't know. Whatever. So
there's a lot of men that think it is important, and we love that.
Yeah, that's cool. And those are the people that we kind of like. You kind of want to touch into a bit more, I guess, and stuff like that. So cool. Love it. So interesting enough, I know we mentioned at the very beginning the whole kind of one of our favorite books, which was Tony Hsieh's Delivering Happiness. Now, I love the Book of Happiness. Obviously, he's not around with us anymore, unfortunately.
No.
But I mean, that was one of my very first entrepreneurial books, right? It was like many, many years ago because he wrote it. And it's only a small, tiny book, isn't it? You pick it up for about $8-10 or whatever. Now, you talked a little bit about being obsessed with customers.
Yep.
Well, I guess I'm going to use as a double-ended question here. First of all, what did you learn from Tony in that book, right? And how, from an actionable, practical perspective, how do you obsess over customers apart from the fact that you're selling them a men's skincare line or whatever it is? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's interesting, and it's very apropos the timing of your question. I think a lot of companies take what's traditionally like customer service, and they look at it as like a cost to their business. Matter of fact, I was on with my CFO early this morning talking about our 2023 budget. And no offense to the financial guys, they're brilliant, and we wouldn't be where we are today without them. But, he's like saying, well, we don't really need to add people there. Well, I'm thinking just the opposite, right? It is about like how we treat our customers, and our customer our customer success team is actually in our marketing team. They're not part of operations. We like shield them from the financial guys, because listening to your customers and like hearing and delighting your customers is so critical. And I think, just Adam, think about it this way too. We're a subscription company, and they're like those companies, subscription companies, like your internet and these various kind of your cell phone and stuff. They're like some of the most hated companies out there, right? I mean, you call them, you're on the phone with them for the Wall Street Journal, the Times, whatever it is. You're on hold for 40 minutes just to change your address, right? And you're like, I'm paying you $20 a month or $100 a month. This is insane. So I think like Tony is interesting the way he approached customer, and he was really a pioneer when it came to direct consumer and thinking about creating, an unbelievable experience for the customer. And it starts with, actually with the when they receive the product. Well, it starts with the web experience, but when they receive the product and they open up the box and they have the product experience, and maybe they do or don't like that product. I mean, who would have thought that you could send sneakers, trainers, I think you guys call them, in the mail and actually make a business out of it? And he realized that you could just delight customers through the experience they have from opening up the box, checking out the product, and then they're always inevitably going to have some sort of issue, and like being on the receiving end from a company perspective and dealing with that. And us as a modern day subscription business, we're a pain in the ass free company. We will do anything for our customers because that's what keeps them coming back. In a subscription company, if they're unhappy, we'll give them their money back. If they don't want a subscription, we don't care. We'll sell you just one time, or don't. And if they don't like us, we literally write to our customers and say, here's one of our competitors. Try them and see what you think.
I like that.
See what you think of them. We actually, I shouldn't even say this, but we actually banned some of our customers that are such high maintenance. We tell them, we're like, you can't do business with us anymore. We thank you very much. Here's a coupon that we found on the web for our competitors. Go try to use them. We actually say this to them. Go try to use them. And then, by the way, you're banned from ever doing business with us again. Because you're just not you don't belong to our tribe. So I think like it starts with the customer and really trying to understand. And so we really have a lot of conversations with our customers every day, like hundreds of conversations. We probably deal with like somewhere in the neighborhood of 2,500 specific customer tickets a week. So 2,500 specific customer interactions, like very specific interactions with a customer, not just like, hey, what's up?
What do you, it's interesting. I was picking up a few pointers there. You talked about customer experience and customers that are a pain in the ass, and there are plenty of them, of course.
Yeah.
But so this is interesting. So for one, say for example, when it comes to our listeners, and they're probably like nodding their heads, like nodding dogs, thinking, yep, I've got some pain in the ass customers and whatever it is. How do you know from your perspective that those customers don't fit with your tribe? Is there kind of like, do you know what I'm saying? There must be like some sort of checklist, or it's like, no. That's a red flag for me. Any thoughts there?
Actually, it's easier than you think.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's a question. It's a very good question. It's easier than you think because we have a culture as a company, and everybody at the company understands our culture. Like they get it. I mean, they just know it. They know what our culture is. And so it's pretty easy to spot a customer that doesn't fit our culture. And it's usually the guys doing like nefarious things. They're calling and saying they didn't get this, they didn't get that, we reship. Then they say they didn't do this, we credit them, and then and then next week we see that they just joined again, and they took a 50% off coupon, and then they're calling us up and saying, hey, but I got the 50% coupon, but I didn't get the special offer for the DOP kit, and can you send me that? And we send them that, and then they cancel again, and and then we're just like, well, you're just a jerk, so you don't belong here, there's this thing. Some customers, not most. There's a select group of customers that feel like they're owed something by companies. There's almost like some part of civilization, at least in America, I think it's a trend where like companies are bad. Well, companies aren't bad. We employ people, we produce great products. If people don't want our products, we go out of business because they don't buy them. So, so people are like, how much can I take from this company? And those are the guys that we kick out.
That's good. I mean, it's like, I'm contributing to the system. I'm employing staff. You're getting great products. I mean, what else do you want? Like,
what do you want from me?
It's like you want blood out of a stone. Anyway, yeah, I totally. That's an interesting point. I like that. That's some cool stuff. I like that. Interestingly enough, because I know that there are men's skincare lines out there. You've got the Clarins, you've got the Nivea for men, and all that kind of stuff. When you created Tiege Hanley and stuff like that, I'm sure that you obviously looked at those types of competitors because they're in your kind of like Bloomingdale's and places like that, right? When it came to looking at the way that I wouldn't say just packaging, like we're looking at that, you mentioned experience, right? How did you, from a product standpoint, how did you want to be different from a product standpoint? We know because these guys, you've only been around for 6 years. They've been around for donkey's years. They've got a marketing budget and a branding budget the size of my arm.
Yeah, exactly.
But how would you say that you're unique in terms of like, how would you say that you have this kind of competitive edge from a product standpoint?
Yeah.
What was your thoughts?
And by the way, I think Murdoch's of London was one that I grew a lot of inspiration from. And same with Aesop, which is a unisex brand out of Australia. But we wanted all of our products to be, how do I say this? We wanted all of our products to be really friendly to men. And so let me just define that. Like, as guys, there's a lot of things we don't want. We don't want to be our face to be shiny. We want a matte feel. We don't want any product that goes on our face that's heavy. Like it's just not like, guys don't, like that. We don't like this motor oil stuff. I mean, our nighttime moisturizer, which is our heaviest, like viscosity and weight, is a lot for me to put on my face. And I've been doing it for a long time. My wife thinks that that's like a light moisturizer for her. So I think, and she won't even use our daytime moisturizer. So the feel of it and how fast it dries down and like how it looks on your skin, and how it feels throughout the day, those type of things. And I like, to me, the big companies really just kind of didn't spend as much time as they should have thinking about the male consumer, and kind of just repackaged and some of the stuff that they were doing, and marketing as well, repackaged some of the things that they were doing for their female consumers. And we're really kind of going after it from that perspective. And definitely with like product assortments, like toners and BB tints and clarifying creams, and like guys don't know what the hell all that stuff is. And it's just ridiculous. So like really, I think just the feel, the look, the smell, how it is over time. And really just kind of focusing on what guys like versus, kind of, and then further from that, I think like we do focus specifically on men, and we're kind of like not hyper masculine, but we're a man's brand, and we don't try to be a unisex brand. I mean, women could potentially buy our product, but we're not catering to, a woman audience, or a unisex audience for that matter.
Got it. And that's interesting because I guess, do you feel like men are kind of neglected consumers? I mean, I don't know about you, but it's like what you picked up a good point. It's like, when it comes to beauty companies or whatever it is, right? Or and they're kind of like, they've been so obsessed because they've got so much experience in working with women. Do you feel like men have been kind of neglected, or do you just think that they assume that there is no market for men in skincare? What's your thoughts on that?
I think you're spot on, Adam. I mean, men, I think, and everybody I talk to, so I do think men have been, kind of underserved in the way that men need to be spoken to, and products need to be developed, as you just said, as I just said, products need to be developed, and it's a way they need to be marketed to them as well. Like like showing a picture of like some Fabio guy with his shirt off and long hair and like water thrown against his shirt, that's not going to motivate me to buy a product. I'm not going to be like, wow, that guy's just, man, I mean, I got to get my skincare on. I got to get my skincare game on so I look like him. But in the woman's world, it is a lot about like parody. And so like a beautiful woman that looks like this or is Chanel, they want to look like that. They want to have that bag or that, whatever. So I think like the way that men are marketed to for men's products and the way products are being developed are completely underserved. I think it continues to be underserved.
It's interesting. So I guess from your perspective, you kind of saw an opportunity and kind of jumped on the railroad, if you like, or jumped on the train and thought, you know what, I think we've got a good opportunity here. And I guess that's kind of like what your investors were thinking when kind of like Tiege Hanley came about, right?
Right, exactly.
Love it. Very cool. So in terms of like, the company, now I know that you guys are a skincare company. That's the focus, right?
Yeah.
But from your perspective, I know that you talked a little bit about culture, you talked a little bit about people, you talked about a product. But from your perspective, like how does one differentiate itself, being the whole package? How do you, like, as a CEO, what is the life of, what's the average day look like for you? And how does that kind of maybe compare to your traditional CEO? And I'm sure that you've had lots of kind of like roundtable meetings with other CEOs of other companies. They're not necessarily in skincare, but how does your, I suppose, experience and like your wisdom, because wisdom from like reading books such as Delivering Happiness, how does that kind of differ to, other people managing companies compared to what you're doing right now? What's the legacy behind that?
I wish I could give you a sexy answer here, but I think the truth is, Adam, and a lot of my friends that run businesses, I think we all deal with very similar like sets of issues. And so I do see that as being, there's a lot of commonality between some of the issues we're dealing with. Where I think the differences are in style, like style of leadership. And I think they vary a bit based on, the type of businesses you're in and whether or not you're a direct to consumer business, like who your customer, are you in manufacturing, et cetera, et cetera. And so I think styles, right. I think styles change a lot from CEO to CEO.
Right.
Our business, I think the business itself, like marketing to consumers is, there needs to be a lot of fun from culturally, there needs to be a lot of fun and excitement around it.
100%.
So, and we have young customers and we have young employees. So I think from my perspective, and unfortunately, I'm not as young, that young anymore in my career. I'm well established deep into my career. So I think like, I always think about, staying current and young and trying to understand what our team is going through in their personal life outside of work and in work, and how we harness kind of the best of that to reach our customers. So those are, kind of probably slightly different from my CEO perspective than others.
Well, I think everyone has their own different opinion, right? Isn't it? There's not a right or wrong answer, right?
Correct.
You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
Which is interesting, because it brought me onto a really good ideology with you, actually, because I mean, you've been growing the company for like, well, almost 7 years. It's 6 years, right, at the moment. So there must have been like, I believe that businesses go through cycles, right? They go through cycles of growth, and then they kind of get stunted, along the way or whatever it is. From your perspective, being in e-commerce, because my knowledge in e-commerce is very, very limited. But what would you say, like, when you go through that stage of growth and you hit that kind of like, I'm going to call it plateau for the sake of for it, how did you get out of that plateau? What did you identify? Like, what was the kind of like scenario behind it? Like, what was your challenge behind it, and how did you deal with it emotionally? What were your decision making, processing? I'm just trying to kind of like drive in deep in terms of like, why did you do what you did at that period of time, and how did you kind of like get back onto the horse, if you like, and back into growth mode?
Yeah, I mean, that is one of the best questions I've had in a long time. And I think you're spot on with your assessment, that companies do hit these different plateaus, and companies, thrive for a plateau and never ever reach them, too. So I think we have blown through a couple of plateaus, and they're usually financially, there's a lot of financial connection to that, like reaching certain levels. And we have, the next level of plateau that we're trying to get to in terms of, total gross revenue as a company. But to answer your question, I think you do hit these really stagnant kind of quicksand times in your growth cycle, and it's really hard to break through. So I think the simple answer, if I can be so bold to give you one, is to keep your head down and focus on the things that you're really good at. So, the more you kind of flail around and try a bunch of different things and make a lot of noise and, hire a bunch of consultants and build new plans and try to, build new things. Those are typically, in my experience, are typically mistakes. It's more about staying focused, staying ultra focused. When you start getting into these quicksand areas and where you're having a hard time breaking through, it usually is doubling down on what you're really good on and just hunkering down and being as positive as you can. And not every day is a great day, so it's very hard. So that would be my answer.
I like it. It's very cool. Just out of curiosity, I was just going to say, it's interesting you mentioned the word quicksand. It's a really good analogy in terms of like, and I don't know about you, because like you, I run a very successful company. And the thing is, I don't know about you, but how do you, I mean, we all deal with it emotionally and mentally differently and stuff like that. Because there's going to be an element of expectation in our mindset, right? It's like, we need to be hitting here, and say we're like kind of like really far away or whatever it might be. How do you deal with like the emotional and mental pressures of running a company? Because I mean, there's an element of expectations from your shareholders, from your investors, or whatever it is. Like, how do you deal with that, on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, another great question. I don't have a silver bullet. It is extremely, this, as you just described, you've lived this too. Anybody that's run a business knows it. We're all in a fraternity together. It's extremely difficult. I mean, it's emotionally very, very difficult. And I think a better question is how do you deal with it both at work and also at home? Because entrepreneurs, I don't like the concept of work-life balance.
No.
I don't like that concept. The more I've thought about it over the years, entrepreneurs don't have a work-life balance. They just have life, and they're just dealing with their life, and their life includes work and home, right? And their personal life, and it's just blended. It's all one thing. So I think, like, how do you deal with pressure in life? And I happen to have a very short commute home. I happen to be very fortunate with a wonderful family, a great relationship, and a wonderful wife. And so, like, just the time that I spend commuting, which is supposed to be my downtime between here and like refreshing my mind to start thinking about cleaning the dishes and taking care of home life and the things that I do there, is very difficult. And you're still very stressed out about the day, and you're trying to unwind. And I think it's very, very, very hard. It really is. So for me personally, to answer your question, I do the things that I think a lot of my peers do. I absolutely have to work out. I'm a morning workout guy, but I have to work out in the morning. And honestly, I'm not looking to like be huge or to do this or to run, a marathon or climb Everest. I'm just trying to stay alive. Like I'm just
survival mode.
I'm just trying to be able to have enough in me to fight the dog fight of tomorrow, because tomorrow is going to be a dog fight. So I just want to have enough energy. I want to get rested. I'm pretty disciplined, so I want to get in bed at a certain time, and I don't want to eat too much like sugar and stuff like this. I mean, these things contribute mightily to your mental health. So those are things that I try to work on.
I love that. What's really interesting about this conversation is that this is just like, for me, I think there's this kind of like premise or this perceptional reality of, like people like yourself who are 7-8 figure business owners or whatever it is. And it's like, they do things differently or whatever it is, but actually you're still human. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like, there's no real differentiation between you and like your 6-figure business owner or your 5-figure business owner. Like, we're all still human, right?
Very little differentiation, actually. They're just bigger highs and bigger. I don't even know if that's true. Very little differentiation. I mean, the guys that are out there grinding away and generating whatever it is, $100,000 business or $500 or $1 million, USD business, or $5 million USD business. I mean, they're doing the same thing, man. They're grinding night and day. And they're under a lot of the same stress that guys that have bigger businesses are under. So I mean, anybody that's out there living their dream is definitely grinding, and they are definitely stressed.
Absolutely, 100%. Love it. Listen, I know we're coming towards the end of our interview. I think this has been a real fascinating deep dive more than anything else. I hope you feel like you've got some great. We've had some great conversations.
Absolutely. You've been very interesting, and I'm grateful that you've had me on your show, and we had a chance to talk a little bit about entrepreneurship and men's skincare, and Tiege Hanley's just trying to help men look amazing.
Absolutely. So listen, guys, I hope that you have, first of all, I hope that you've enjoyed our episode with me and Kelley. If you want to learn more about Kelley, click on the links below. There'll be there'll be a coupon code. So if you want to check out the skincare line for the men's and stuff like that, feel free to do so. There's no pressure, by the way. But it's always kind of cool, especially if you're thinking about, gifts and whatever it might be. So just think a little bit different on that kind of stuff. So I would highly recommend you check that out, by the way, ladies and gents. Kelley, I just want to say thanks very much for being on the show. Really, really greatly appreciate you and your input for today.
Thank you, sir. And for all your entrepreneurs out there, I hope you live your best life and get after it, man. There's inspiration for all of us.
Absolutely. Listen, guys, hope you've enjoyed today's show from me and Kelley. If you have, please do me a favor. Leave a 1 or a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. We'd be greatly appreciated. Anyway, from me and Kelley, it's enough from us, and hopefully we'll see you again on the next Game Changers Experience. Take care, and we'll see you soon. Cheers.